actually have to explain to you today so that you understand why you have a barrier and what happens to the barrier.
Yes, if we can just go into that. I mean, I use so many, especially all the Aqua Spa ladies are always talking about healthy skin barrier. It almost makes me think about my gut. That is the basis of all health. And if you can just explain to me what is that about?
Okay, so a different name for your barrier is your biolipid layer. Now, saying that bio, you already know it's two things.
Yeah.
It's not just one thing. So I always talk with my hands. I'm gonna explain it this way. Your biolipid layer or your barrier it's got a function. It's there to protect from outside elements, whether it's the wind, coldness, heat, and to keep the things that we don't want in skin out. It's a protective layer in the skin.
Okay.
And also using active ingredients, if your barrier is not perfect, the ingredients will fall right through into the dermis and you will burn. It will irritate you immensely. That's why we often, so the barrier, if it's perfect, the active ingredients slowly penetrate the skin. Remember, we're not just working epidermally, we want to have ingredients that's active, penetrating the skin right to the dermis, where your active ingredients should stimulate or maintain or change something. So when it drops in because of your barrier, then you have a reaction. Hence, we often get clients that says, I can't use anything on my skin. Whatever I apply on my skin burns me. It's not the truth. Yes, there are ingredients that's harmful and sensitizing to skin. But when they tell me what they use and they dehydrated, they're sensitive, but on top of that, they're sensitized because of the climate. It drops into the barrier and you have an adverse reaction. So they get too scared to use anything. So I'm always very excited when I meet someone like that, because then we can guide you into that. So we have to maintain your barrier function and the health of your skin, or repair it. And that we do with ingredients.
Okay, can I ask you, how long, if someone hasn't looked after their barrier? I've been fortunate enough to be using the products, and I've seen such an amazing difference in my skin.
Your skin looks absolutely fantastic.
Better, and it does something for my confidence.
Absolutely,
definitely.
Thank you.
But how long does it take to build up a barrier? If it's someone that don't know about protecting or building a barrier, like I don't know how long it took for me. Is there a time? Can you give us an indication?
No, not really, but also yes. Okay. So remember, we also in a consultation look at lifestyle.
Okay.
So depending on what you do, where you do, if it's different, if it's outside certain time of the year, inside, if you run, if you sport, we consider all those factors, plus seasons, plus skin. So if your question in regards to, let's say someone is not using anything active and the barrier is shot and sensitive and whatever.
I was like that when I started.
I prefer, and I think all of us at the Aqua Spa understand activity and active ingredients and what do you pay for, what do you actually get. So a lot of active ingredients, just, giving that to the client from the first time you see me, I wouldn't go there.
Yes.
So we first want the skin healthy. So we will start always treating sensitivity and your barrier function.
Okay.
So how long does that take? Well, that depends on what I give you and how compliant you as a client are. So if I say yes and no, no means we also look at your budget. What can you afford? Even if you start slowly, we'll start somewhere, but we'll end where we actually have to get. Hence, we call it a journey with the Aqua Spa. But if you start exfoliation, and if you start looking at the health of your barrier with ingredients, within 2 weeks you'll feel better.
Wow, that is very quick. I've also heard that it can even change with one treatment.
Yes, sure. It can.
Can you explain to me how that is even possible, that it can open up or close, or how does that work? That you can do only one treatment and it can change your whole skin?
So two of the factors that we consider when someone's barrier is not perfect is, do you exfoliate, and with what do you exfoliate?
Yeah.
So if you don't exfoliate active ingredients, you lose 84% of your actives that you've paid for.
Okay.
So so that's where the education comes in.
Okay.
Secondary to that, then we look at what is your lifestyle? Why are you dehydrated? What do you do wrong? What does your products currently do that you're using? So answering your question about can we change your barrier, can we make it more healthy in one treatment? For sure. Let's take one of the very easy treatments that we do is BT Micro.
Yes.
So where we use microcurrent with an enzymatic exfoliator, activate that and then remove your dead skin cells on your epidermis. So you exfoliate it immediately. Then we use the same little instrument with different serums. In this instance, if you're sensitive, it will be sensitive to whatever. So we customize the serums according to the need of the skin, plus masks. And then we actually use the same little instrument, turn it around and use ultrasound to force it into your skin.
That's amazing.
So we exfoliate and it's not painful. You're not red when you leave, your skin is relieved.
Oh, that is
So,
amazing.
and then of course, the teaching comes in, and then after that we will actually, add your products, your eye product, your moisturiser, always sunblock, which is my first thing that I look at. And then of course, something to actually seal in winter, to protect a top layer of a product if the skin asks for it.
And then, will it make a difference if you just, I've been drinking a lot more water than I used to.
Good question.
Does water really have that bigger influence?
It's a very valid question you're asking me, and I'm so happy you're asking me.
Okay.
So often when I speak to someone and I diagnose dehydration on the skin, they would say to me, but it's impossible that I'm dehydrated on my skin because I'm drinking 2 liters of water.
Yeah.
Okay. 10% of that intake of 2 liters, which very few people do, goes to the skin as an organ.
Okay.
So
10%.
only 10% goes to the skin. The rest is used to detoxify the kidneys, the colon, whatever.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if you drink 4 liters of water, will you be more hydrated? No, you're flushing out all your minerals and your vitamins. That's what you're doing.
Okay.
So we need skin, and that's where skincare comes in. If it was that easy, just drink more water. No, you've got to actually use ingredients that actually work in the skin. Because remember, as we age, AD, the skin gets lazier. From oil production, keeping water in, the barrier gets disturbed. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay.
It makes sense of the rest of the body.
Yes,
But it
exactly.
gets lazier, everything goes down.
Exactly. Collagen is lost, elastin is
Yes.
lost, sure.
Okay, thank you for that. And then just another thing that I always think about is there actually a difference between dehydrated skin and dry skin? Or
Yes, very
what
big
is-
difference. Okay, a dehydrated skin, I actually show my clients in a mirror because I ask you, do you know how to look at your skin and determine whether it's dehydrated or not?
How?
Because sometimes I would say, do you know you're very dehydrated? And they would say, no, I don't know that. I don't feel it.
How would you?
You actually, I'm going to demonstrate on
yes.
you. You push the skin like this. Yours is so perfect, your barrier, madam. I can't do it. But as soon as you do this, you actually make the look of dehydration, you accentuate. So then you see fine lines everywhere, even on the forehead.
So it will be fine wrinkles.
It's not wrinkles, it's like fine little lines. You can see it very clearly. So the treatment that you and I just spoke about,
Is that then?
that is a water loss in your skin.
Okay.
All right.
And
So
that is dehydration.
that's dehydration.
Okay.
Long-term dehydration can lead to sensitization.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to get that, to rectify that problem. So that's dehydration. It's impossible with you. Your skin is so plump. You're not dehydrated at all. But someone is dehydrated. Remember, I work through a magnifying glass, so I see it immediately.
Everything.
So I need to tell and show clients what does that mean. So your question was, what's the difference between a dry skin and a dehydrated skin? A dehydrated skin is a lack of water, which you get in different ways. Moisturiser, treatments in-house that we do, hyaluronic acid, masks, all those different little tricks we have up our sleeve.
Okay.
A dry skin, when you ask me about a dry skin, that means a skin like mine. I'm 60 years old, I'm oil dry. I had acne as a teenager. So my oil glands also started slowing down, not producing sebum. That's why I don't get pimples anymore. My hair is dry, my nails is dry, my body is dry, my skin is dry. So that's when we start customizing products by adding an oil to your existing day or night cream when it's needed to actually replenish with oil. So that is a dry skin. So an easy way to determine whether a product is sufficient for a dry skin is in the middle of the day. If you want to reapply a product because you are feeling tight and dry, you're aware of your skin. Either the prescription was wrong, you're using the wrong product, or you need to add an oil.
Okay.
Does that help?
It does help.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then we are approaching now winter, and it's windy, and I was wondering, when you said earlier about the dryness and the wind and aircons or heaters, it's raining season. It feels damp living close to the ocean. How can it be drier, or how does it work?
Is it colder here in winter than summer?
It is always colder.
Exactly.
In winter.
So that factor
Okay.
actually does harm the barrier and the need for a change or an add in products.
And then, do you really need to apply the sunblock the whole time, or I mean sun protection?
That's a question that you have to have time for me, do you?
I do have time.
Okay.
Are you a sun protection advocate?
You know what, Adi? I love to teach if someone wants to be taught, because I know a little bit about skin and skincare and ingredients, and hopefully I can teach you something, because clients are inquisitive. They TikTok, they look at things, they believe everything, so we as skin experts hopefully can teach you something. So in everything that I talk about, my number one thing that I talk about is sunblock. I work with skin cancer, aged skin, actinic keratosis, all the result of sun damage. We live in beautiful sunny South Africa. So do you want to be outside? Of course. Can you be outside summer and winter and do treatments in-house? For sure, if you use sunblock. The one thing that still excites me, like I can't even explain it to you, and the young girls doesn't appreciate it enough. The sunblocks that we stock are medical products. It's not just the sunblock. So I'm going to explain that to you. When you have DNA damage in a skin cell, so you know a DNA strand looks like this. It's as if you took a scissor and you cut that DNA strand. So cell communication is haywire. Hence skin cancer starts forming. So it goes into overdrive, producing too much skin. So that, and by the time you see it on the surface of the skin, intervention is needed, and you don't know what's going on in the bottom of the skin, because not all of them will show at one time. Listen, this is amazing. The sunblocks that we use has ingredients in it. We call it fern block technology in, for instance, HelioCare, that goes to a damaged DNA skin cell and turn it back to a normal skin cell, so that communication is repaired. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
By applying a sunblock that we sell.
Is that the HelioCare AK100 or,
no.
Which one?
The entire,
all of them?
Entire HelioCare and Lamel sunblocks has that in.
That is really amazing.
So that's why it's more expensive.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it doesn't contain colorants, perfumes, alcohol, which is bad for the skin. But I think you use HelioCare, which is your tinted sunblock. Lamel also has one. It's a tint, which is my foundation. I don't use foundation anymore.
That's what I've got on.
Exactly, and look what your skin looks like. So you've got the foundation, you've got the medical side of restoring DNA.
Wow,
the sunblock.
That is really amazing.
Yeah.
Never knew that.
Yeah. So the other thing that you might not know is the difference between a 50 and a 30. I'm not actually going to talk about a 15 or all those little ones.
That's too short.
No, that just worth very little. It's worth something, but you'll understand when I explain. You add an O. A 30 will protect you 300 minutes, and a 50, 500 minutes. It's against the law to have 100 SPF, because people have the perception of total block.
Yes.
And they don't want to reapply, so reapplication is as imperative as the amount of sunblock that you use?
I always thought that 30 is for 30 minutes.
It's 300.
Okay.
So it's in thinking that way, who's going to reapply sunblock every 30 minutes? No one. That's why I'm not talking about a 15 sunblock.
Yeah.
Who's going to reapply it every 150?
Yeah.
No one.
No one.
So sunblock has to be reapplied, depending also where you work, where you're outside, how are you in contact with UVA and B. So that will be a determining factor. Of course, when you sweat it off, wipe it off, you have to reapply. Swim it off,
yes,
it's off.
Lorinda, there's another thing you touched on, the active ingredients. And if you can, I mean, we are bombarded on social media with active ingredients. Is it hyaluronic or hyaluronic acid? How can we as consumer, it's like reading labels when you're into nutrition, because I know there's buzzwords, but there's not a lot of that ingredients in a lot of the products that's on the market. How do we educate ourselves or see how much active ingredients do they have to be in a product to really make a difference?
Okay, I'm not going to talk to you about percentages.
Okay.
Because that's too difficult for the public to actually make a study about.
Got it.
But I think if I explain this to you, you're going to have a better understanding. First of all, people don't read at the back ingredient listing. If something does not have an ingredient listing on it, don't even touch it. It's against the law.
Okay.
It should be either on the box or the container. Okay. When you read ingredient listing, 99.9% will start with aqua or water. That's the base. So the biggest ingredient in there, the most, is water. And then they carry on. And there's such a big list, we don't even know all the ingredients in products. And then at the end is the least active ones. If that will help you slightly. But in saying that, there's a law in South Africa, I don't know in other countries, that any product that you take from a shelf, you yourself, chemists, whatever, that you can decide, I've got one pimple, you think it's acne, which is wrong, but you take the acne product. If it's too active, it can actually damage skin. Okay, so they're not lying when they say it's in there, but the percentage can never be more than 0.05%.
Okay.
So let me give you an example. You asked me about, and that's the great thing with advertising, is the public actually gets educated.
Okay.
So Q10 was a huge one that everyone knows. I can see you know what I'm talking about. So there was an ad on television where someone talked about anti-aging Q10 night cream. I actually did myself a favor and went and had a look to see how much Q-serin is there.
Yes.
0.02. Is it an anti-aging ingredient? Yes, for sure. Is it expensive? Very expensive.
Very.
So we have a product called oil repair in the Dot Skin range. One of the ingredients is 10% Q-serin. So yes, you're adding Q-serin or Q10 to your skin, but the amount will not actually change anything.
Okay.
That's what I mean with actives.
Okay.
Hyaluronic acid is the next one that the public actually knows and actually sickle to actually pronounce.
Yes.
Okay. So hyaluronic acid, first of all, is in the common language a moisture magnet. So if you could weigh a molecule,
yes,
it penetrates the skin and then it actually attracts 1,000 times in its weight water from the atmosphere and binds it in the skin.
Right.
Hence, it's like a sponge attracting water.
Okay.
If you look at a baby, that squashiness that they have, that's 100% hyaluronic acid that we lose as we age. So the body makes hyaluronic acid. It's an ingredient that it recognizes very easily, but it diminishes.
Okay.
So when you dehydrate it, hyaluronic acid, to put water back in the skin, for instance. Okay. So let me try and explain to you the difference between a hyaluronic acid that you would buy and take from a shelf in comparison to what we sell. I remember the first time we were taught by Lamel about hyaluronic acid years ago. They compared it to a Goldilocks that you scour pots with.
Yes.
You know, through a microscope, that's what a hyaluronic acid molecule looks like.
Okay.
So the easy way to understand is that it's got different strands or weights. So they take it out. So there's a long strand, a medium, and a short, or a weight that's heavier, medium, and very light. So epidermal hydration will happen with different ingredients or strengths or weights.
Yeah.
We want hyaluronic acid to not just improve epidermal appearance and feel and look, but hydrate inside skin.
Yes.
So, if you only buy a product that costs you 100 Rand, do know you only are purchasing something for dehydration on the epidermis. It's an expensive product, or to manufacture that properly does take time, and you've got to be a bit of a genius. And that's why ours are more expensive. So clients very often think we are more expensive because we stock products in a salon. It's not that, it's the technology behind it. And I often find, Annie, that if clients understand this, they feel a bit cheated. You know, they're using Q-Serin or Q10, they're using hyaluronic acid, but once they have this knowledge, they feel a bit cheated.
I think it is also a question of we don't know a lot about our own skin.
No.
And we feel a little bit stupid to come into a salon where everyone knows, you think everyone knows more, and you are vulnerable for not knowing. So you would rather go to a chain store that sells a lot of products and read on a label or see an expensive bottle and buy an expensive cream and then think that you are buying the right one because it's expensive and it's got the right words on. So it's always better to come to the experts and let them help you. I'm sure you will help anyone that comes into the salon on an education level.
That's
education.
why I love my job. Because, you know, if you go to your dentist, do you look forward to it? Do you know, is the education involved? You're not brushing your teeth correctly? Sure, that's part of his job. Our job is to actually get your skin healthy and glowing. Forever.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't feel, you know, that we're looking at you through a magnifier underneath the light. Yes, the very first time you come, you are ongemakkelijk. You do feel exposed, sure. But at the Aqua Spa, we try our best not to make you feel, and I teach that to the younger therapists as well. You can't look at a client's skin and go, oh my goodness. You have to actually treat a client in a respectful manner.
Yeah. It is a vulnerable place to be in.
Of course it is. You know, so I love it when clients come when they're not there, what you're explaining, where they don't know what to do anymore, and they've tried so often different things, and their friend says do this and whatever. So yes, we love it, and we're there to care for you. And hopefully in this environment you will know that you are safe. We don't discuss your skin with other people. And we get excited, and hopefully you will start seeing a change.
Yeah, well, I have definitely, and I have seen women walk into the salon and then I'm like, oh, this is their secret. They are Aqua Spa clients.
Yeah.
And it's girls that I admire in town, that I think, what are they doing? And I've seen a couple of times when walking out after my treatments, I've seen
good
girls,
skins.
good skins. They're all healthy skins.
Yes.
I mean, there is definitely a consistent of just healthy skins, and it is different age groups.
But Adi, you know what?
It speaks for itself.
In saying what you've just said about age groups, there's certain things we can't do.
Yeah.
Where Botox and fillers come into play, if that is a concern for you. We are about healthy, glowing skin and keeping it for as long as we can.
Yeah.
So I literally have had clients after a lactic acid peel which is a hydrating peel. It's a game changer in half an hour. You ask me now, what can we do in half an hour and change the skin? And I explain to them, your navel folds here, your laughter lines, I can make them a little bit less obvious and prevent, stretch out aging. But if if it's really deep folds, I can't do anything about it. And they look in the mirror and they say, after a peel like that, they say, but I look 10 years younger.
Yes, that is
And I say, but do you
amazing.
now understand that I did nothing about your age, your expression lines, but because your skin is healthy and glowing, you look the best your age that you can, and that's our aim with skin.
And that is, I think, everyone, I mean, us being photographers, is always, if someone is behind the camera, they always want to look natural. Most women don't want to use foundation that often. You want to have a fresh look when you wake up in the morning.
You know what, Adi, what's great, what you're saying is so true for me. My aim when I start working with someone who's a little bit older, showing signs of aging, which is pigmentation, broken capillaries, actinic keratosis, which is the precursor to skin cancer, and skin cancer. Eventually, I want you and your self-image, because of your skin health, to be so great.
Yeah.
Especially if you were used to acne when you were young, you're still actually putting on those foundations that covers everything, which really is negative for the skin. And I've got nothing against good foundation as long as you remove it well. But what you're doing, for instance, that's what I want. You're using a tinted sunblock,
Yep.
and you are happy with that. You feel it covers
Feel
enough. Exactly, but also you don't need thick coverage to hide things that you don't like.
Yeah.
And
Because my
that's
skin is sorted out.
exactly.
Because I use my products right.
Well, that's the other challenge, you know, how quickly can we change the skin? It depends on the client. I always call it my cement in between my bricks is home care. So when I start with a client, I will not start with active medical treatments.
Okay.
I have to prep your skin. I have to get your barrier intact in order to change your skin and do medical treatments. Where real treatments, you know, like that is invasive. They're not, they can be painful.
Okay.
But it's not a pamper session, but we're changing your skin. But where I start often mostly is home care.
Okay. Thank you, Lorinda. I think for questions, I think that's it for me.